Yeah.
So none of this except the fiber optic engineer is going to be coming out of the $150 million or the universal service fee. Okay. I think I could say that clear. That provides at least some insight. Yeah.
We're at least within a ballpark of sorts.
Yeah,
I'm worried about the other chunks of change I managed to gather up over the years for us to use.
Well, it seems to me that these requests are consistent with what we're trying to do to support CUDs under our general authorizations. So I can't say that I find reasons why we shouldn't do it, but it's really not pleasant to be a board member where these are oral requests delivered on the fly, on the spur of the moment.
I understand, and you should know that any startup has this problem. You know, trying to forecast.
I'm sorry, I've never been part of a startup that had a problem quite like this.
Oh, I have. And you know, we do not get an idea of what our budget was going to be until now. So I did bring budgets in the past, but they aren't accurate enough, and I knew they weren't accurate. We couldn't even predict what was going to happen on our funding side till now.
Okay.
Let's move along.
To 3:30.
Yeah, please.
Yes.
So are we all set
Thank you.
with the software?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
all
it's
right.
the platform that's going to help us a lot over the next few years, I think.
All right, let's move to public comment.
Okay, getting lots of hands. Do we have anybody in? There's nobody in the room there, right?
Nope, no public in the room.
And Holly, since you see the hands, do you want to take this on, or I can also call on people? I just want to be, since we're doing this remotely now.
I don't see the hands. All I see is a circle that represents the public.
I see the hands.
I see the hands too.
Okay, I see the hands.
Right,
I don't know why you don't see hands, Holly.
We're going to start with David Jones. And then I see RM, and I'm not sure who RM is, but RM, you're on deck. David Jones, you're first.
Okay, let me spotlight David, and you should be able to turn your camera on manually.
Okay, thank you.
Or actually, maybe I need to do that. So now you can.
Okay, thank you. 4 quick points. In the language that has just been reviewed, overbuild or incidental overbuild was defined in terms of the number of addresses, not in terms of the number of miles. That's a problem because our hub locations are going to be in areas that are already cabled and are more densely populated, by a factor of 3 to 4 compared to our normal, the mileage of the uncabled areas. So 20% in terms of locations will translate to 5 to 7% in terms of miles, and I don't think that's going to be enough based on our initial planning. And I would urge, unless there's a legal reason to do so, to define the overbuild in terms of miles, not locations.
Dave, can I just interject, because there's another component of overbuild. We define point-to-point fiber with no drops as not being counted as part of that overbuild. Does that solve that problem for you?
No, because there's no way that we're not going to serve customers on the areas where we build unless we're going through a specific area where by agreement with the incumbent, we're not doing that in order to obtain their cooperation.
So you're saying that more than 20% of your addresses are going to end up being addresses that are served?
I'm saying that I could expect our mileage, the amount of mileage that we require to get from uncabled location to uncabled location, say along state roads, will already be cabled. And so if those cabled locations are going to have a higher density of locations per mile, than the areas that we are intending to serve through this program. And so that's going, if we define the percent overbuild in terms of locations rather than miles, we're going to reduce the amount of already cabled areas that we can use as our backbone routes or get funded to serve as our backbone routes to somewhere between 5 to 7% of our mileage as opposed to 20%.
David, I'm not totally sure I understand. If you want to send me an example, that might help.
I will. Yeah, it's math, but the key distinction
Not my strong point
is
today.
Overbuild defined in terms of locations versus overbuild defined in terms of miles. Because I can't monopolize the time, I do want to make a couple of other points. One, in contrast to a statement made during the meeting, CUDs, if they are following the model of EC Fiber, will be the entity that is the ISP of record and is providing service directly to customers. In our case, GWI will be our operator in the sense that they will help us to manage, but they will not be the ISP of record. We will, for a variety of good reasons. And I would make the suggestion, if there's still a desire in the RFP to define what a public broadband asset is, you might consider the question of, will the infrastructure as designed and built be physically separable and economically operable as a standalone asset? That was a key decision criteria for us when we were considering how to partner with commercial operators.
Please also send that language.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Okay, RM. Your bubble says RM.
Hi, all. Sorry about that. Regina
on deck, before you start on deck, is IT.
Okay. Regina Mahoney from Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. Thanks so much for your time building this ship. It seems like a monumental effort, so thank you for doing it. I just wanted to take a minute to encourage flexibility in distributing funds in non-CUD municipalities. I know that some of these changes will likely need to be made at the legislative level, but I just wanted to take the minute to express them to the board as well, in case there is anything that you can do. In non-CUD municipalities, the service providers are going to be seeking the state funding directly and requiring each of those providers to submit a universal service plan for the entire municipality, when multiple service providers are likely to serve the underserved pockets, is proving a little bit challenging. Also, it would be helpful to allow funding for all providers that can provide the 100-100 fiber service in non-CUD municipalities. Last but not least, it may be helpful to allow municipalities to apply for funds directly. Certainly not as a requirement. This is incredibly complicated, and I'm not sure there are municipalities that want to be in the driver's seat, but it might prove helpful in some circumstances if we're having difficulty otherwise. These are just some ideas we've had after seeing how the program is shaping up. These are not likely complete thoughts and final thoughts from CCRPC specifically or from our region more broadly, but I wanted to get them out on the table. So thanks so much for listening.
Thanks, Regina. Holly, you have a question.
Regina, would you please submit your comments in writing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right, we have IT is up and C is on deck.
Hi, this is Irv Tomei. I want to support David Jones's comment about what constitutes overbuild and what doesn't. The nature of the problem is that densely populated parts of a town are already served, but they're central. typically. So you put the hub at the center of the town. And to get to the outskirts of the town, you have to go through the inskirts, so to speak. That means you're going to run through areas of high population density, and you're going to pass a lot of locations. If you measure the percentage of overbuild by the number of locations that that incidental cable passes to get to the unserved outskirts, you are penalizing the very CUDs, the very organizations that are trying to reach those outskirts and serve them, because the profit-seeking entities have not deigned to do so. So I would strongly support David's comment. You should look at, if you're going to have a percentage definition for incidental overbuild, base it on the mileage involved of fiber cable strung, not on the number of homes and businesses passed to get there. Thank you.
So Irv, just if I may, with that model, we are still looking to make sure that it is incidental, that it is to get from the hub to those addresses.
Of course.
Okay,
Of
I
course.
just want to be clear on that.
And
That
it is reasonable to ask for a text explanation in a map. But
Okay.
with a map, a rational person can easily demonstrate to other rational persons that in order to get from A to C, you have to pass through B.
You have a lot more faith in rational thinking these days than I do sometimes.
Well,
Thank you, Irv.
that is one of my failings. I do believe that most people want to be rational. And when there aren't strong economic incentives against being rational, they are generally able to do so.
Thank you, Irv.
Okay, thank you, Irv. We have C, and I've now figured out C is Krista. And on deck, let's have Will Anderson. You will be on deck.
Hi, thanks. I don't have any comments on what you've discussed today. I do have two items that I just wanted to raise as challenging. And I understand that you may know about these. The first is the degree to which the department is and I mean department is understaffed from an accounting perspective. We submitted an invoice on October 20th that we found out today is actually not even in the system yet, and may be in the system within a few days, and then we'll, I don't know what the time frame is for turning that around. So I'm not in any way disparaging the person that is working many more hours a day than she should for a state job. But I do think that it warrants the VCBB's attention as to whether or not there is a solution to the issue, or whether or not additional pressure could come to bear. The second issue that I wanted to identify is around the PSD data. And I just, I think what I understand is that there's going to be sort of an internal VCBB data work that's done. And I think what I understand is that the 2021 data from the department currently contains the wireless additions since 2019. And the piece that I want to point out to you is that regardless of what the VCBB decides to do, it is whatever the department has actually posted that I think will determine whether or not we qualify for the tariff reductions in GMP and VEC areas. So if there is going to be or you think that there should be a change as to whether or not something is considered served if it has a potential wireless solution, then that change would need to be made to be effective for us from a monetary standpoint at the department level, not just within the VCBB evaluation.
Just, oops. It may actually have to be at the Public Utility Commission level, depending on what the actual rider said. I don't know if the rider referred to PSD data or what. So there, yeah.
Laura, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to, this sounds like it may need some legislative attention.
Please.
Krista.
Yep, I've got it in our notes tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll be talking about it, so.
Okay, let me know if there's anything that I can help with on either of those counts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Will Anderson, you are next, and FX, you are up on deck.
Okay. I don't know what FX is going to say, so I might step over his feet a little bit here, but I'll try to provide my general update on the CUDs and where we stand with everything discussed today, which was a big meeting, and frankly, I think a lot was accomplished. So thank you for that, especially with regard to a grant, largest grant yet to our largest CUD, NEK Broadband. They've been doing really terrific work and have a great plan. So we're really excited to see that CUD get set into motion in our most underserved area. With regard to the construction RFP, we have had a policy meeting to discuss our approach to presenting a unified voice on this RFP. And this is not to discourage any CUD
the
from
meeting's going on still, but I don't need to hear the rest of it.
Irv,
And
you
I'm
need to
glad I
mute.
didn't hear. I actually chose to comment without turning
Irv,
my.
you need to mute.
Folks,
Irv.
Hold on, I muted everybody. You'll have to unmute yourself, Will, and any board members.
Thanks, Rob. That's a great honor.
I've gained some new power, I've discovered.
We have a plan for formulating a unified voice to respond to this RFP. That's not to discourage any CUD from voicing how they feel about a particular part of this, but we do feel it's important to make our voice clear on this on a number of different issues. The two that I perceive to be the most important to changing now before they create problems for CUDs are one, the approach to how the RFP is applied for. We are pretty confident that if this is a standalone grant, it will be quite difficult for CUDs to complete in one go in terms of how long it'll take them to complete it, because every CUD wants to be thorough with this and get it right. So I anticipate that we're going to favor a phased approach and that we'll put together a proposal that lays out how we think that would be most effective and present that to the board. Personally, I was really intrigued by Rob's partnership proposal. I'm going to be exploring that idea, in some messages to CUD members. Definitely think I need to flesh it out a little more, but I think the idea is really intriguing and that some CUDs may be on board with that as well. So I'm going to explore a number of different options with CUDs, and we will have a proposal on that. The other issue that I'd like to mention is overbuild. I've received different messages on overbuild from a number of different CUDs, so this is something we're going to need to work out a consensus on. At the heart of the issue is that CUDs have to build out networks, not just individual sites. Like that approach has not been shown to be effective for networks of our model. So we need to figure out to what extent we're able to follow the model of EC fiber with these overbuild requirements and then make a proposal accordingly. So I'll be working on that this week in conjunction with different CUD leaders, and we expect to be having a proposal on that as well. All in all, I think, the different parts of the RFP are essential and for the most part, don't need to be changed. And I don't expect that we're going to be, quibbling about every different part of this, but there's some major things that, we were going to want to get right before this grant is introduced. On other fronts, developing shared services for the CUDs is coming along pretty well, and have some exciting developments in GIS and trying to shore up our statewide auditing services as well. So in the new year, I'm really hoping to introduce a lot of shared services that are beneficial to the CUDs and enable this rollout to go quite smoothly. And I'll also note that we're receiving quite a bit of attention on a national scale from those that are covering municipal networks. Vermont is really leading the way with this, and everyone involved on the state side and in the CUD side should be really proud of what we're doing here. I've been researching, other ways that this is being approached across the country, and we are ahead of the curve in almost every count. So I think that we should keep up the great work, and we'll continue to set a precedent for the rest of the country. I'm happy to take questions about what's going on in CUD land, so to speak, and also to pass it over to our chairman, FX.
So, and this is Rob. I guess since we did review the document during the discussion today, I will post the alternate vision for the construction program, changing out some keywords from partner to collaborative model and from contractor to not to exceed program, just for discussion and transparency purposes. I'll post that to the VCBB website.
Okay, Will, typically we have a place on the agenda for you to do an update. Do you want to just do public comment? You've exceeded the 3 minutes, but I just wanted to check in to make sure.
I mean, I've said everything I had to say. I noticed I was not on the agenda today, which is fine. I would like to have, 10, 15 minutes carved out for CUDs in the future. I think it's important that we have our voice.
So bear with us. We're going 100 miles an hour, and I think it was an oversight that for this meeting it was left off. But if you have other things that you wanted to report out, I'm happy to give you more time.
That's all that I had to report out.
Okay.
I in the future plan to bring more concrete updates, especially as CUDs move ahead with developing the responses to the construction grant program. New developments will be cropping up a lot more. But that's all I had to report on. I'm happy to discuss other issues that are coming up for board members that have questions they need to answer. Otherwise, I'm satisfied and hope the CUDs are satisfied with how I've represented them in this comment period.
Thank you, Will. Laura, you have a question?
Yep, I just wanted to say thank you, Patty, for noting the omission on the agenda. I think we have agreed that this was an important agenda item for every meeting. And Will, I do want to encourage you to utilize all 10 minutes. We've got hundreds of Vermonters working on this project. Ask the CUDs to help you, but educate us on who they are, what they're doing, what the impact is. Help us keep those faces in front of us and the impacts and effects they're hoping to bring forward. So thank you for, I think I said to you at one point also, Will, don't feel like you need to roll through it for us because, you really are representing the people that we are trying to make sure can be successful.
No, that's quite all right, Laura, and I'll just add some more context in this. That something that I've noticed in recent months since I've taken over this position is that CUDs are really accelerating rapidly now, thanks to bringing on new staff. Multiple CUDs have brought on executive directors and other staff members to help this effort, and that's really what's pushing this on the most rapidly. So a big thanks to all those that are working in this movement now, and especially to those that are volunteering. I attend CUD meetings quite regularly and so impressed by the level of interest and dedication that volunteers around the state are taking. So you're quite right, Laura, that I think that we should have our time here to just discuss what the CUDs are doing and keep the focus on the people who are making this happen. Constantly impressed.
And Will, make sure the CUDs know if they're not on this call that we are going to be seeking a contractor that can assist with USDA Reconnect. I've heard via the grapevine some of the CUDs are pursuing that on their own, but this is a resource that we would like to provide to the CUDs since
certainly, Rob. And I'd like to talk with you about that in the coming days. I was at the USDA before and have been providing a little bit of let's say advice on Reconnect, but when it comes to this program, it's extremely detailed. And although the reins of it have been lightened up quite a bit this year, especially with regard to the protected borrower requirements that pretty much hobbled us here in Vermont in previous years, there is a real opportunity here. But we need support for the real science of it and the engineering. Because if you don't get that right, then they pretty much throw your application out. So I can provide support to the CUDs, for information and guiding them how to, kind of move forward with this. But a consultant that's able to help CUDs just on a case-by-case basis with this program would be critical to actually getting it approved. I mean, and that's no offense to the CUDs. I mean, the biggest private sector companies in the Northeast can't get this program because they can't get the application right. So I'd like to meet with you about that, Rob, and see what I can do to help coordinate that to make it happen.
Certainly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Will. The last person I see with their hand raised is FX Flynn. So FX, it's yours and your cleanup for us.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, I just wanted to reflect back some comments related to this question of overbuild, and it's actually going to lead to a point that I guess I'm hoping that the board and Stan will have some substantive discussions on, which is how to read Act 71, which really does set out as a goal that the state wants to get everybody to 100. Now, some of the things that have been being worked on, for example, the engineering standards. One of the things that gets talked about is that the mainline access cable needs to be, 48 count. And if you're building, through any area where there's pre-existing 25.3 cable service, that's probably going to be one of your mainline access roads. And so that's going to be a minimum of 48 count, which absolutely does mean that you're going to be able to serve each and every one of the places that you go past, out of that state mandated large fiber count cable. And I think that the board really needs to get clear on just how much the federal rules, in ARPA around money for or defining service levels at the old FCC 25.3 level really apply once the state has taken the money and put them into the Vermont Community Broadband Fund. At what point does some of that get washed away? Second is that the new federal infrastructure law points to a higher class of cable service as the baseline, which is 120, which dictates that essentially means that there's a fiber backbone, and then they're providing neighborhood service on the old copper coax, and there's upgraded equipment, and it's capable of DOCSIS 3, et cetera. So you're going to have to collect a whole different set of data about the cable companies in Vermont and what they're doing, because when that tranche of money hits the Vermont Community Broadband Fund, which I believe is what will happen, then they're going to be an entirely different set of rules. I've tossed out the idea that perhaps the state at this point should ask the White House for a waiver that would just allow the broadband fund to apply the infrastructure rules from the get-go instead of getting wrapped around the axle of trying to negotiate around these 25.3 things. So I just wanted to throw that in there, and I'm looking forward to sitting down with the draft now of the RFP, because, in many ways it's written with the other 8 CUDs in mind, and has a lot of provisions in it that frankly ought not to apply to a well-established CUD that's already built 1,500 miles of network and already has 7,000 customers. So you'll get a heavily edited set of comments out of us.
I think that speaks to the 2 approaches outlined in the new ideas, and I did just post that document.
We welcome your feedback, FX.
Thank you, Patty.
Okay, I see no other hands up in the list.
Next
So
meeting?
What's that, Rob?
Is our next meeting in 2 weeks, or do we want to meet next week?
So public comment is closed, and I think Rob is now asking for when our next meeting is.
I am not available on December 6th, just letting you know.
Do we need, what would be the cause for a off-schedule meeting? Because we've agreed every 2 weeks. So this would be an off-schedule request. What is the justification for the off-schedule request?
Looking over the new version of the RFP with a goal of putting the RFP out by the middle of the month.
So do you think we will have substantive feedback from CUDs and other interested parties ahead of next week that could be compiled in a way that gives us enough time to review them?
It sounds like they had a meeting this morning to discuss and compile that, and Will is going to be sending stuff over, and I'm certainly been getting stuff on an ongoing basis. I do believe I can turn around all the changes in the RFP and some restructuring in time to have a new draft to look at. I might ask till Thursday to do that at the end of the day, preferably.
So, Patty, I am interested in trying to get that RFP out as quickly as possible. And I'm hearing Rob say he thinks he can do it. I would ask that we try and not that we try, that the board is presented with something that is kind of comprehensive and inclusive of comments. So and not that we're getting, pieces here and there. It's just challenging as we're all moving really quickly to keep adding pieces in. So I guess, Rob and Christine, do you really think that you could get all of the edits and everything in? I would be willing to meet on the 6th or the 13th, but how long will it take you really to get kind of comprehensively?
I think we could turn it around. We could also do a working group in between and have a draft that we publish for final public comment, and then we make the final changes on the 13th is another way that we could do this.
Sounds dangerous.
It's with the varying opinions, it might be.
If I may, Will Anderson from Vacuda here again. The soonest I anticipate to have a final proposal from Vacuda will be the 6th. But I do think that that's optimistic and that we might have more to thrash out on top of that.
Thank you, Will.
If I could ask Patty, Madam Chair, we're going to have a budget discussion on the 13th. Are we going to be able to do a final RFP review? I would hope so, but final RFP review doesn't sound like we're going to have all the comments in by the 6th. And as much as I wish everybody were as diligent as Rob Fish working through every holiday weekend, are we pressing ourselves to get a grant RFP out during a season when very few are going to be able to command the kind of information that they're going to need to even start addressing it? Just saying, maybe that's how some people will be spending their holiday season, but I want to be sure that we're pressing ourselves for a real purpose, because it's been a lot of pressing.
I think if we are going towards a more phased approach, if that's what we call it, or the 2 paths, or however we end up doing it, with the lower bar to be able to apply, I think we can press ourselves. I don't know if we need to press ourselves to try to have something by Monday. I don't mind having a little extra sleep.
Yeah, I think the key thing that I
A little
concerned
less
with
overtime.
that Vacuda isn't going to be ready for their feedback till the 6th. For me, that kind of just like, oh,
Yep.
that kind of kills it.
I think we take this up at the 13th, and then if we need a special meeting after that, we schedule it. But Holly's spot on. As the holidays roll in here, things are gonna really slow down, and the CUDs are gonna slow down too. Laura's skeptical.
Fine. Yeah, I'm skeptical about the CUD slowing down too.
Yeah. But I think I support the 13th, Patty, and hopefully we can do the budget and the RFP both in that. And if not, then we could, complete our work on the 20th. I would like to see us complete both of those things before the start of the new year. That's a big chunk of work I've done.
It is.
To the new
It
year.
is, and it's a lot, and just recognizing it's a lot of work for Rob and Christine to put that packet together. So we'd have a packed meeting on the 13th. We'll muscle through it, and if we need a follow-up meeting after that, we'll try for the next week.
Yeah, I've got quite a few meeting minutes to go through next week.
And don't forget Will. Do not forget Will on the agenda.
Agreed.
Yeah, I apologize for that. Yes.
And Stan, just a little footnote to you, my favorite new person. We're having a little challenge with the minutes. We'd love your assistance on them. And I'm quite concerned about our compliance with public meeting laws in taking time to publish minutes. Just want to be sure that we're not missing a step there.
Yeah, we're okay with I plan on having those minutes posted by Wednesday, which should meet the requirements. But
We are very thankful for the holiday for the 2 days that don't count. So I should also note that one thing that I think we forgot to mention is that the grants person that's going to live in the department they've accepted their position and should be starting the end of December, which will be great. We also did get through the joint fiscal approval of the broadband project developer position, which ideally we'll hear back from classification and will be posted soon. We'll see how long that takes. So those are two other big developments. We also expect additional great news to be able to share in the very near future.
yeah, we're also interviewing the administrative assistant. So I think we're getting.
Yes. Yeah.
I think by January we should be in. I shouldn't even say it, but we should be in good shape.
Able to start weaning off the blood pressure meds.
Yeah.
I think we'll have everybody hired, and then it's time to pass a budget.
Pat,
I'm going to take a vacation actually.
Too late.
Very funny.
All right.
Okay, so our next meeting is the 13th, December 13th, as a group at noon, and the legislative committee subgroup is going to meet tomorrow at 1. That's Laura, Christine, and myself.
Yeah, I've included Robin and Stan in that meeting, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely okay. Thank you very much, Christine.
I would very much like to have an opportunity to talk with our legislative subcommittee about conversations I've had about affordability and ideas I have for the VCBB in proposing something regarding affordability drops and low income rates.
We can't have more than 2 board members.
Yeah,
meeting.
I know. So that's why
okay,
I'm just letting Patty know, like,
Okay.
I'm happy to meet with Patty or Laura separately to just talk about some ideas in case it meets, has some legs, the subcommittee.
Okay. It would have to be tomorrow morning, Holly.
Well, are you only having one subcommittee meeting? That's it?
I think we're going to try to be pretty quick about this because we want to get in front of the legislature.
Yeah, we're meeting at 1, and then at 2 o'clock we're meeting with June Tierney on the same issue. So Patty and I are meeting with June to talk about, to describe to her what our legislative agenda thoughts are, as well as get hers.
So, do you have any time in the morning, Patty?
It would have to be after 10 o'clock.
That's fine. Anytime up until noon.
You want to say 10:30?
Fine. Yes. I will call you.
Okay. You have my number?
I do. Thank you, Christine, for that.
Excellent. Okay. Laura, do you want to be part of that?
I don't think I can be, right?
I can
that's true. That's three of us.
do a repeat.
Three of us.
I think the thing that would just be most helpful for me is if you understand it, Patty, and if there's a bullet list of here's how
Okay.
it would work.
Yeah. And really, I just want you to know where I've been actually on it. So
Okay.
so that you have the benefit of that information.
Excellent. All right, we'll talk at 10:30.
Patty, I'm so excited about this meeting. I really feel like we got some big stuff done.
We did.
Laura,
We did.
I'm so
Christine.
excited that you had us write down a policy. I could spit nickels. Thank you.
It's a real policy, not a guideline.
I'm really excited for a motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there one?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Welcome, Stan.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
See you
Christine.
all soon.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, no, Peter.